Hi friends, Caitlin here, coming to you from the editor's chair. Just wanted to pop in really quick before the official start of the episode to address the little bit of a gap since our previous episode. Cheshire and I have been crazy busy over the month of May and now into June, trying to get our shop front open. If you follow us on Instagram, you've probably seen the situation going on there. So, unfortunately, although we had an editor, we lost her. So, I am now doing the editing. And we should get back to our bi weekly, as in every other week or every 2 week schedule now that things are slightly more settled. Thank you so much for listening and thank you for following along with us. And please, if you are interested in healthcare, herbalism, or history, hit that Spotify follow or Apple Podcast follow, subscribe, like, whatever. Thanks so much.
Hi, welcome back to
Common
Common Roots.
My name is Cheshire, and I go by she, her.
And I am Caitlin, and I also use she, her. And this is Common Roots, stories of herbalism, healthcare, and history.
Yeah.
Our disclaimer, as always, this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare practitioner, ideally a clinical herbalist or your doctor before starting any new herbal regimen, especially if you are pregnant, nursing, on medication, or have any special medical conditions. So, today's episode is F for fur. F-I-R, not F-U-R.
Yeah.
So,
The tree.
I wanted to once again thank our new listeners for joining us. I'm really grateful every time I see new people pop up on our numbers.
Yeah, we're starting to get some growth.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We love sharing this kind of knowledge with you guys, and yeah.
And our perspective. And we'd love to hear from you, honestly, on what your perspective is on certain things.
As I have mentioned in the last couple of episodes as well, we want to encourage you guys to reach out. Our Instagram is at Alchemy Healing. It's spelled ALCHYMIS, and then healing, HEALING. You can also email me directly. I realize in the last episode I gave out the general email, but I want you guys to reach out to my email because it feels more personal, and I want to hear from you guys. So it is Caitlin, CAITLIN, at alchemy.co.uk. And again, it's spelled ALCHYMIS.co.uk. I have started talking to a couple of people who hopefully will come on and be guests. I'm really excited to start sharing stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to hear from you guys as well. It doesn't have to be a full interview. You can just, tell me about your experiences with anything we've talked about, or just share. We want to hear from you. And continue to like, subscribe, follow Spotify, Apple. It's really helpful, and it gives us happy vibes.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, every viewer we see, it's a bit of a... It's just good to know that we're
Listener,
being listened
not
to.
Viewer.
Yeah. Well, listener, you're right. Every listener that we have. It's good to know that there are people out there and we're not just shouting into the void. So
I mean, I would gladly shout into the void for as long as I needed to.
I like what we're talking about, and I learn a lot from you every time, honestly.
Yeah.
But it is nice to know that there are other people here with us.
Yeah. So today's topic, we're going to go really far back. We have talked about ancient Egypt. We have talked about the Middle Ages. We are going to talk about really far back. How far back do you think we're going?
I mean, I can guess 100,000 years.
That's a pretty good guess.
I'm dead on.
Almost.
I cheated a little bit. We talked a little bit about what we're doing today, but not much. I haven't.
Well, so one part of what we're talking about goes 400,000 years in the past.
Wow.
But most of what we're talking about is going to be about 50 to 100,000 years.
I mean, that is an absolutely gargantuan length of time.
Eons.
It's hard to even...
It's like, can't even be comprehended. Like, I even struggled with things from, like, the Middle Ages, thinking of something that's 1,000 years ago. Like, really think about what 1,000 years means. Now multiply that by 100.
I mean, America's whole history is like, 250 years.
Yeah.
To get to 50,000 times 4 times 50. The whole history of America.
Yes. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic, which are also kind of sometimes referred to as the Stone Age, although the Neolithic kind of pushes into the Bronze Age a tiny little bit, like really early Bronze Age. And the Bronze Age is when we start to have actual documentation and written records, because that's like ancient Greece and ancient Egypt type of stuff. However, everything before that, we don't have written records. And in the Paleolithic, there was no writing. So, obviously that means that a lot of what we're talking about today is not 100% provable. We can't read a book about a Neanderthal written by a Neanderthal that says, today I did X, Y, and Z, and I made this medicine. A lot of what I'm talking about today is being extrapolated from archaeological evidence. And also, there's a lot of anthropological studies that are being done on modern hunter-gatherer groups that they can kind of use to compare to archaeological evidence of what we found. So when I say it is theoretical, what I mean is it's extremely educated guesses.
I mean, I know, ironically enough, I want to say this is about the Australian natives, the Aborigines.
Mm-hmm.
Verbal histories are way more accurate, and it's another thing where, like, we've poo-pooed them for a long time. Truthfully, probably because it comes out of native sources. But the story I know is that there was an Australian native group that had, like, a story about how you used to be able to walk out to some island, and it turns out that, yes, there is evidence that that was the case, but it was like 30,000 years ago or some ridiculous length of time.
And
they still had an oral history that said, yeah, we used to be able to walk out to that island.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Like I said, we don't really know what ancient Paleolithic society looked like and don't really have evidence of like culture and everyday lives. But we do have evidence, and we have existing cultures in the modern day. So the first thing I wanted to bring for us to talk about is when I say human going forward, do you think that I should only use that word to refer to Homo sapiens? Or do you think that the concept of humanity is a broader, almost like emotional concept that can apply to a much wider range?
Well, so I'm a transhumanist, actually. So for me, I think human is almost like a mindset more than anything. I do think there's something like our instincts gives you a humanness, right?
So I am talking about today, we're talking about multiple different kinds of, as the scientists say, hominids.
Yeah.
And they are all species of Homo. So we have Homo neanderthalis, Homo erectus, Homo... Gosh, there's a third one and I'm forgetting it. But they all are part of the genus Homo as in human. Same as us is what it means. Same as us.
I think, I mean, my understanding is the etymology of the word human, I think it's Latin, is that basically we're dirt people, which we live on Earth, which is also just dirt. It's just dirt.
Earth
so we're
is dirt.
People of the dirt. Great. I love that. So I think if you're a dirt person and I can have a conversation with you, you're a human. That's fine.
Okay. So yeah, I am going to be talking, to start, we're going to be talking about Homo neanderthalis, or colloquially known as the Neanderthals, or Neanderthals. I'm American, so I'm going to say Neanderthal because that's what I'm used to. I believe Neanderthal is also completely acceptable, or it may be the correct way to say it, and I'm going to get a lot of angry people telling me that. Sorry.
I think I've heard Neanderthal said many, many times.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's just the accent, right?
Yes. So especially when I talk about Homo neanderthalis, a lot of people kind of picture them as the cavemen, right? They are not our ancestors, but another species altogether. And that is true, technically, Homo neanderthalis. However, back in 1997, we did a full genome of Homo neanderthalis, and it showed a vast amount of DNA is shared with modern humans, Homo sapiens sapien. As more Neanderthal DNA was reported, it showed that admixture was pretty common. In all humans today, we have between 1 and 2% Homo neanderthalis DNA in us. So Neanderthals and humans are so closely related, they're basically equivalent to wolves and coyotes.
Yeah.
We know that those species can hybridize, and so there is pretty much a theory that we didn't war with the Neanderthals so much as interbred with them, because they did have a very small population in compared to Homo sapien, because there are some ways in which they were less adaptable. But yeah, Homo sapiens thought they were hot.
Well, I think, if you've ever seen any community of any sci-fi series or game or anything ever.
Listen, there's one thing humans know how to do, and we do it well.
There's a couple things we know how to do, but it's definitely, that's one of the big ones for sure. What's the 3 F's in the hippocampus? Flight, mating, and
flighting, and
mating.
That's right.
The 3 F's.
So yeah, there is definitely, it is pretty much commonly believed that we are Neanderthals as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And a lot of people, the reason that a lot of people don't like this is because there is a stereotype that Neanderthals are basically like barely more than primates, that they didn't have a language, that they didn't have a culture, that they didn't have much of anything that makes them human. The way that I was saying, what makes us human, right? What is the humanity that we're talking about? Yes. This was very common early on, and it is still, I think, a very common stereotype that cavemen were, Ugg smacks Ugga over the head and drags her back to the cave, and they mate whether she likes it or not, and there is no love, there's no compassion, there's no care between these people, right? They're just all fighting and doing the F's, the 3 F's. But no, actually, that is completely incorrect. Neanderthals were extremely similar to modern humans in many, many, many ways. And one of those ways that we're going to talk about today is medicine and healthcare.
So I've said to you before, I think that we're pack animals. I think if people don't have any sort of connection to other people, that's a very dire situation. It's very unhealthy. And I think if Neanderthals, they're living in packs, that's already a level of similarity.
But I think that the level of pack animal, I think it goes far beyond that, to be perfectly honest. A pack animal will defend its pack against dangers, will generally care for the children of the group. But what we see in this archaeological evidence, and what I'm going to get into, is a level of compassion far beyond that of like a wolf pack, for example.
Well, truthfully, I'm not thinking of a wolf pack. I'm thinking of a sheep pack. And I think some people are like, oh, people are sheep. And it's like the people saying that think that they're not, but they are. We're all sheep.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, and we'll get into it further as I get on here, but I would say it's beyond that as well.
Really?
Yes. To start, I wanted to discuss the academics' definition of medicine. Because the truth is that chimpanzees and other primates practice medicine, sort of. It's not the same, but there are a lot of chimpanzees who will, for example, eat plants that have no nutritional value but are known to remove parasites or ease pain or any of a number of things. So they are doing these things on purpose. However, it's not quite to the same level, and so there is a distinction that academics make. So this is sort of the broad definition of medicine when we're looking at archaeological evidence. Any action, procedure, or preparation that is intended to restore, improve, or maintain health, well-being, or fertility of an individual or the group, and is perceived to do so successfully. So this definition covers surgery and medicinal plant use, as well as shamanism and other forms of magical religious medicine. It also covers things like ostracization, sacrifice, art, burial practices, music, the use of certain natural places, and other actions which may not be seen to us, the modern mind, as being medicine, but are often seen as such by the people in prehistory and by some groups still today. So when we study ancient medicine in academia, it's broken up into three main areas. So there's shamanism and magico-medicine, surgery and physical procedures, and medicinal plant and mineral use. And we saw this when we did the ancient Egypt episode. We talked a lot about like how they had really sophisticated surgery that was kind of separate from the medicinal plant use that they were doing, and that they also had priests who were doctors.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of crossover. Obviously, a number of medicinal plants we know have psychotropic traits or effects, I should say, and they're used both as medicine and also in religious rituals. Certain physical procedures, such as trepanation, which we'll actually get into, are both surgical and also ritualistic. And obviously, sedatives and analgesics were used during surgery to alleviate pain.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that all of this is tied together, because it's like you have to learn all this stuff, you know? So you get like a priestly role, and then now you have to spend the next 6 years learning the whole oral history and how every plant works. Yeah. And if there's no writing, you can make no mistakes, right? Because there's no backup. The only backup is maybe if someone else also has the oral history, right? So I know that like groups with oral histories often tend to be extremely strict with it, because you can't, if you mess it up, if you forget that this root helps you with this illness and think it's a different root, you'll kill somebody, basically. Yeah. And then you'll pass down that false knowledge for who knows.
We're going to start in the Paleolithic, which is our furthest back time period here. We're looking at probably about 80,000 years ago in Shanidar in Iraq. The Shanidar Cave is an archaeological dig site with a lot of extremely well-preserved Neanderthal remains. One of the bodies I wanted to start with was buried on its side, curled up in the fetal position. Analysis of the body and the dirt around the body was rich with pollen that was found nowhere else in this cave system. Yarrow, cornflower, yellow cockspur, grape hyacinth, and horsetail.
Oh, they laid them down with flowers.
I know. So most of these plants have no nutritional value. Many of them are medicinal. But most importantly, they are yellow, blue, pink, and purple flowers. Oh. So the volume of plant life led to the assumption and educated guess that this Neanderthal was buried and then covered in a blanket of beautiful but also medicinal plants.
I mean, I think that's an extremely human thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you might say that, like, what's the point? But the point is, like, we build these strong bonds together because that is what makes us more effective at whatever it is we seek to do than any other animal on the planet.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you have to, after a loss like that, the community can come together and mourn.
Yeah, I think it's just a really touching kind of a thing. Like, you have people who don't have a lot of the same concepts that we do in the modern day, but they absolutely would see us laying a bouquet of flowers on the grave of a loved one and understand it.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it was really important to kind of establish, like, what do we mean when we say human? You know, at the top of the episode, we're talking about people who have the capacity for compassion and connection with one another.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's really, like, that is a big part of what makes us us.
Yeah. There was another gravesite found that was 40,000 years old, where the area around the head had been filled with meadowsweet. Meadowsweet is a beautiful flower as well, but it contains salicylic acid, which we know is the foundation of aspirin, modern aspirin. It's most commonly and strongest in white willow bark, but it's found in many other plants as well as meadowsweet. So the significance is also kind of debated. Like, is there a reason why not just pretty flowers, but important medicinal plants were buried around this person? Like, if you bury someone surrounded by flowers that relieve pain, what does that mean, right?
You're sending them into a painless afterlife or something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is, we'll probably never know, right?
Sadly.
It might just be that that's what they had at hand, basically. Although then again, because a flower would degrade very quickly, wouldn't it? So
Either
they
way.
would have had to go out to pick it.
Yeah.
For this ritual.
Yeah. Especially with the Shanidar caves, because we're talking about in a cave system. So someone went out, gathered flowers, and brought them in.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at prehistory, we are talking about just pre-agrarianism is what it's called. Like, basically, these are hunter-gatherers for the most part. They are nomadic groups that traveled across Europe and the Middle East following the migration of prey animals. What we know about these people isn't perfect, obviously, but there are also modern hunter-gatherer groups, which we are able to use to compare against the archaeological evidence, which I mentioned earlier. So we imagine most of us stereotype the hunter-gatherer tribes as men hunting, women gathering.
I have heard that. I bet you're about to tell me it's a crock of shit.
It's not entirely a crock of shit. Language, by the way.
Sorry.
It's not entirely baloney.
Baloney.
But, so there were basically multiple forms of hunting that took place. We know that men were responsible for doing the majority of the big game hunting, which is how these tribes subsisted mostly on a carnivorous diet of big game, things like caribou, elk, mammoth, big creatures that you can't go hunt by yourself. We're talking about the men of the tribe gathering together, going out and driving, because they did not have projectile weapons. They had spears, but they were short, hand-to-hand spears.
Surely they threw them, right?
They were not strong enough to pierce the hides of the creatures that they were hunting.
If they were thrown.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I thought that one of the biggest advantages that we had was, like, humans can throw things, like, really hard.
That's true, and it is beneficial when you're fighting other humans. But most of the creatures that we're talking about, the big game creatures, especially during the Ice Age, had incredibly thick fur and hides. And it required not just the thrust power of a physical, thrusting, but also to hit them in the right areas that had less padding.
Wow. I mean, that's scary.
Yeah. However, there was also another really important form of hunting, which was sort of the smaller game. So we have squirrels, rabbits, little deer, any of those kinds of things, which would take place kind of closer to home. And it looks like women were responsible for that hunting.
For a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was some intermixing either way, right? Because the truth is, obviously, it's a super strenuous task. So men tend to be more physically strong.
Correct.
So who would you go send to fight a mammoth in hand-to-hand combat? Probably mostly men. But there are very strong women, and I also have no doubt that there are just people that were like, this is what I want to do.
Yes. I mean, when we look at modern hunter-gatherer groups, women do most of the gathering and the small hunting.
Mhm.
But if women are capable of hunting alongside the men, they are not stopped from doing so.
Yeah.
While the groups are kind of split by gender, it's much more egalitarian in that way.
Because it's about, you have to get stuff done, basically, right? There's
Yeah.
no time to putz around with this bullshit is arbitrarily assigned to these people. It's
Yeah,
like,
especially...
we need to kill a mammoth. Everyone who's strong, get out here. Most of the people are going to be men who are strong, but, not necessarily everyone, right?
Yeah, well, and another really important factor that we found, not we as in me and people, but we as in human scientists,
scientific
is
community.
that in hunter-gatherer groups where you have men who are performing such incredibly difficult hunts, I mean, these hunts are incredibly dangerous. They are incredibly difficult. They are incredibly long. About 20% of men or hunters, I should say hunters, about 20% of the hunters at any point in time are off sick, whether from injuries or needing rest or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you're a really small group, 20% can be a massive amount of your hunters. So you're going to be like, we need someone else. Hey, you, get over here, whoever it is. If you can hold a spear and come with us, you can come with us.
Yeah, because otherwise you don't get to eat.
Exactly. But it does look like most of the gathering was performed by women. But again, it could be that you are a hunter who needs to convalesce, and you can go out and walk around the woods and gather roots and tubers and things like that, but you can't run alongside a caribou.
Well, also, while you're trekking out into the woods or whatever, I'm sure if you saw things that you could eat, and you'd have to have some knowledge of that,
Mm-hmm.
you carry a backpack or a basket or whatever, right?
Yeah. But this means that gathering isn't just berries, roots, and greens. It's also medicine, obviously. So women were most likely the first healers, identifying plants not just for their nutritional value, but also for their medicinal value.
Mhm.
Now, I paid $16 for a paper about
Yeah.
the study of dental calculus. It's plaque, tartar.
Okay.
Basically, calcified plant remains that are stuck on the teeth of these Neanderthals were scraped off and analyzed to determine what they ate and what they breathed in even.
Okay. You telling me they were smoking things?
They were, in fact, cooking things.
Cooking things, yeah.
Yes. So cooking is linked to the onset of medicine use in humans, and evidence shows that regular cooking developed 400,000 years ago.
I mean, this is the thing, not to get too far into the weeds, but I do think the cooking culture that we have right now is super unnatural. That it's basically like one person or like a single family unit cook for themselves. Or you can go out to eat and it's a fortune. I know even in like Roman times, going out to eat was cheap as anything, and people would do it constantly.
Yeah.
So basically, like, the community cooked for the community, and I think it was very similar in Paleolithic times or whatever, right?
Yeah. So the reason that we link cooking and medicinal use together is that cooking and the preparation of food alters its chemical state. So many plants are toxic unless cooked. Another good example is that we have found Neanderthals consumed olives, which require preparation to be edible.
Mm.
In northern Spain, 50,000-year-old Neanderthal remains in El Cedron were found with quite a lot of plant evidence in their teeth. They also found hydrocarbons, which is evidence for wood smoked. And cracked starch granules showed that the plants had been roasted prior to eating. However, another thing they found is that one of the Neanderthals had consumed yarrow and chamomile.
Oh, so they had a nice little tea.
It's very surprising that these plants we were able to securely identify were those with a bitter taste and no nutritional qualities, but known medicinal properties. To get into this sort of idea of Neanderthals as like compassionate and human.
Well, hang on. What are those? Do you know what yarrow and...
Oh, yarrow is... It is rather unassuming. It produces a little pink flower, but it's also known by a lot of other names. Some of the names that it's known by are soldier's woundwort, staunch weed, nosebleeds, and sanguinary.
So what's it used for, though?
Can you guess by any of those names what it might be
Soldier's
used for?
woundwort. Is it an antiseptic?
It is a powerful astringent that stems blood flow and heals wounds. It's also anti-inflammatory and brings on sweating, which can be very useful for breaking fevers.
And what was the other one that this Neanderthal was having?
Chamomile.
Chamomile. Well,
Chamomile
I know that's
is
just
a...
good for rest.
Chamomile
Maybe they had
is
a nasty injury, nasty gash or whatever, and they're like, I'll have some of this then. Or actually, maybe not so nasty, or they'd probably be using, like, opium. Just a little bit of a nick, and they're like, oh, a nice little tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a horrible tasting tea, but one that is...
Chamomile's not too bad.
Chamomile.
Yarrow, though, is very better.
Yarrow's better.
So one of the buried dead at Shanidar was a male of about 40 years old, which is very old for a Paleolithic male.
Yeah.
He had extremely long-healed injuries, one of which occurred back in childhood.
Wow.
A severe damage to the skull around the eye socket, which would have likely rendered him blind in that eye, depending on the damage to the soft tissue. There were also multiple healed broken bones, including head injuries, which would have required convalescence and care to recover from. The left side of the head had received a traumatic blow, and brain trauma may have impacted control on the right side of his body. We see that his right arm was withered and his right leg was crippled. There was also evidence that his right foot had been fractured. Some of these injuries may have caused premature death, but instead, he lived out his life without the ability to contribute to the hunting practices that was the backbone of the tribe's survival. All of his injuries showed sign of healing. It is unlikely that he would have survived or been able to contribute to his own survival without the care of those around him. Thus, he is the earliest example of caregiving to a person with a chronic disability. It is evident that Neanderthals cared for each other and had the skills to look after disabling injuries.
I think also a lot of modern society almost shames people that aren't like working, but work is very arbitrarily defined. I mean, imagine this guy is like the guy that sits around the campfire and tells stories, right? And like watches the kids and entertains them. You know, even that. Like he could have been doing anything. Or they just loved him and they didn't want him to die. And I do think like that's so important. Knowing that also. It's all like morale, right? If I was going to have to go poke a mammoth with a frickin' stick, and I knew that was it for me if I died, I would not be doing a very good job. We take care of each other. That's what makes us so effective. Because it's like, I know that unless I actually die, my family, the people around me, aren't going to leave me bleeding in the dirt.
Yeah, absolutely. Another dead at Shanidar showed extensive degenerative joint disease, something that had been occurring for at least a decade and would have caused limited mobility in the hands and legs. Combined with the yarrow and chamomile, we can easily come to the conclusion that these were members of families, tribes, and the community, and others were caring for this people, even if it meant carrying them, medicating them, and feeding them.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, this is maybe too personal, but, you know, towards the end, my poor grandfather was not doing very well, and he couldn't do anything for himself, but, you know, we loved him, and we didn't want him to die. I think that's a human thing, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, in his case, I think, truthfully, he lived a little too long, but that's a whole other agonizing discussion that I don't want to have today.
I understand that. But yeah, it says a lot about these tombs or graves at Shanidar that these people had been so obviously cared for. And then when they finally died, they laid them on their side and covered them in flowers. Oh. And I think that feels so human. And to think that this was happening 80,000 years ago, it really shows like the depth of humanity, in my opinion.
I think that's incredible. And the truth is, I think 80,000 years ago, part of the problem is, like, we know the Stone Age because stone lasts. I've always heard there was like a wood age, and there must have been. So who knows? They could have had complicated backpacks and all these other things made out of leather, and it's rotted away, basically.
Well, it is interesting that you say that because they are able to find, for example, they found these bone tools
Mm-hmm.
and they had tiny trace markings and trace remnants of birch bark. So remember when we had our birch episode? That was
Yeah.
episode 3. Go listen to episode 3 if you want to talk about birch a little more.
Okay.
But when we had our birch episode, we talked about how the birch bark would be stripped and was used to make like straps and handles and even things like shoes and bags. Like it was thin enough that it was like woven together. So they found evidence that Neanderthals were doing the same thing. They were working the birch bark. And they found a Neanderthal site with artifacts of fossilized wood and bone that were very specifically designed to extract birch bark. Not only that, but they then found evidence of birch bark in the dental calculus, because we know, as we discussed, that birch bark is a powerful astringent and it's not tasty at all. Our birch bark was very bitter. You remember how bitter it was?
Yeah.
So they were chewing on it, possibly to like help clean their teeth or to fight against toothaches.
I guess what I'm getting at, how do I put this? You know how in like post-apocalyptic movies, even though people have lived in an area for like 30 years, it's all like grungy and dirty and like corrugated metal and it looks like shit. The same thing I think we do, like realistically, I don't think that would happen, you know? If I've lived in a house for 30 years, I'm gonna paint it and like make it nice. I mean, even like look at like the favelas outside of Brazil. Those people don't have any resources at all, basically. But if you actually look at the actual houses themselves, they usually look pretty decent, truthfully.
Not to mention they're decorated.
Yes. So I think it's entirely possible, and unfortunately I have no evidence for this and I don't know that any even exists or could exist, that like what we think of as cavemen wearing like big furs or whatever could easily have been wearing like leather armor and we would never know, because how could we? It would degrade, basically. They could have had like complicated pack systems.
Well, we do know, but that's what I'm saying is that there have been great advances in archaeological evidence. And I was talking to you about fancy words like gas chromatograph and mass spectrometry.
Yeah.
Like those tools have allowed us to look and find this. Like we know that this bone awl had a strap.
Yeah.
We know that, we also found, I'll get into this when I get into trepanning a little bit further, but they kept the part of the skull that they removed, and they found that those were turned into like amulets or necklaces of a kind, because we can see the evidence that a leather strap was used.
But even like, so I know like the Incans, for example. I don't know if that's the appropriate term anymore, but that's what I'm going to say. The native people of the Inca, they basically didn't use wheels. They knew they existed because we found them on toys and things, but like they didn't use them because it's a mountainous as hell area, so it was pointless. But they had these incredibly complicated like pack systems that they could carry like hundreds of pounds with one person because it was so well laid out that the weight was distributed. And it's entirely possible that these ancient Neolithic peoples were doing something very similar.
Yeah.
And we would just never know because it's rotted away, basically. So we could say they had leather, but we don't know that they were using it to make this incredibly, sophisticated, complicated pack system.
Yeah, but what we do know is that healthcare seems to have been knowledgeable and extremely technically competent in Homo neanderthalis. In another case found, for example, this person was extremely debilitated, and they found enough soft tissue to determine that they were extremely sick at one point. This kind of care that they would have required would have included like fever management, hygiene maintenance, and also repositioning the body as needed. So individuals with systemic diseases would have been needed to be kept hydrated, while those with severe wounds and fractures would have needed adequate nutrition and rest. they have found that there were fairly high rates of healing and low rates of infection, which suggests that wound management was pretty common. So this also means that they probably had like dressings made of cloth or fur or leather or something to reduce blood loss and to protect wounds from anything getting into them.
I think a lot of what has enabled us to reach our technological heights where we are at now is materials, really.
Tools.
Well, materials specifically.
Mhm.
Because basically, God, I want to say even back in Greek times, they made like a steam train, basically, as a toy. But you couldn't upscale it because they couldn't make the metal strong enough to hold the steam. So they knew the principle of doing that.
Mhm.
They just couldn't make a steam train like we can now.
Yeah.
So I think 50,000 years that these ancient peoples had is a gargantuan amount of time. And the only tools, the only materials that they had access to were the ones they found in nature because they didn't have bronze or anything like that.
Yeah.
So they must have really had possibly even a greater expertise over aspects of their medicine than we do now.
Absolutely. So a fun fact that I read when I was doing this, which I thought was kind of fun. So the prevalence of injuries to the head and upper body in Neanderthal skeletal material was compared to that seen in adult rodeo riders, and supported an interpretation of the majority of injuries being sustained through direct engagement with large and dangerous prey. And I think I mentioned this in a previous episode where I was like, you will die to herbivores much more. And they did die to herbivores much more because those are the food. So buffaloes, caribou, giant elk. And this was there was megafauna pre-Ice Age. So you had elk that were the size of freaking giraffes and and all of these woolly mammoths.
And this guy was jumping on their back.
And basically,
with a short spear.
They had these short spears and stone tips. And they were duking it out one-on-one, not one-on-one, like 7-on-1.
Okay, I want to do gathering.
But despite that fact, so like animals that fight creatures bigger than themselves, like birds of prey, for example, or wolves, which often have the same kind of, a wolf pack is going up against a buffalo and trying to take it down. So they have partially healed wounds at a rate about 6 to 10%. Basically, if they don't die from the wound, they have about a 6 to 10% chance of recovering enough so that the evidence is in the archaeological remains. Early hominids, 40% of them had healed injuries, severe injuries that probably would have killed them, but it shows that there had to be a culture of healthcare, right? You get taken down by a buffalo, your buddies bring you home and you are taken care of.
Or gored or whatever.
Yeah.
Even. Yeah.
And 40% of the time you will go on to live. Another really crazy thing that I found was some early hominids, including some Neanderthal groups, the fetus size, the brains, humans have big brains. That was another factor that changes us from primates. So our babies cook for a long time, and therefore they have big brains and big old heads. Well, the size of the baby's brain and the pelvis shape actually would have required you to turn the fetus at birth in order to get it out of the pelvis.
Interesting.
Which could not have evolved to exist without a practice of assisted births. Which means that the invention of the midwife, 80,000 years old.
Oh, well, older, it sounds like, because that's when it was mandatory.
80,000 years.
80,000 years ago, it was mandatory for there to be midwives. They must have existed even longer.
Basically, yes. Basically, because our babies' brains were so big, and at the time the pelvis sizes hadn't adapted to it, you had to guide the baby out of the birth canal. You can't do that by yourself.
Yeah.
So that means that midwives
were
already a thing
for humanity to continue to exist.
Yeah, we wouldn't even exist today if those women hadn't helped other women give birth.
And that's super important because the babies' heads are so big because we got big old brains.
Yeah, it's really important.
Midwives, the existence of midwives what allowed us to be as relatively smart as we are, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
That was a fact that really blew my mind, that they had to help each other give birth for modern Homo sapien to exist.
Yeah. I mean, that is, like, yeah, that's really impressive, honestly, right? And I mean, how many years back, right? I do think it's cool that I think humanity almost in some ways, like, we're tied in our knowledge, not just like our technological base, but like our knowledge. I'm reaching for something to explain something I'm struggling on, but basically, like, that passed on understanding that you have to turn the baby is as much a part of us as, like, I don't know, my hand, you know? And I think that is really pretty incredible, honestly, because it's like those are the voices of people from 10 to 100,000 years ago. 100,000 years ago. That knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, imagine 100,000 years ago, a woman helped a woman give birth who was struggling. And that made us smarter, because that baby that had a larger brain lived through that birth.
But also, that knowledge has been passed on. That hand, that part of humanity that woman had 100,000 years ago is still a part of us now. We're still hearing her voice.
So I was reading this article, and it was talking about healthcare in prehistory. And I'm going to read you a quote before we get into the discussion part. So, given the costly nature of healthcare, it is unsurprising that care is typically discussed as an enigmatic cultural practice, alongside things like mortuary practices and symbolism. Healthcare is regarded as a complex cultural practice without an obvious function or purpose. I hated this sentence.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with that at all.
But let me get into why. So,
Sure.
They're talking about, why did humans evolve healthcare? For example, you were talking about humans being like sheep. Imagine you're a sheep in your sheep pack. You're going up a mountain. You step in a badger hole and you break your leg. The rest of the sheep leave you behind.
True. That's fair.
The difference is, humans steps in a hole, breaks his leg. The rest of the pack carries him.
But they don't always, right? Like, I know dolphins travel in packs.
But
There have been times when dolphins have rescued humans, even. And I'm sure they rescue other dolphins the same way.
Right. So, I guess what I'm getting at here is, in the modern era, healthcare is somehow no longer seen as, like, a good thing, like a functional thing.
How
like
so?
an important part of being human is taking care of each other.
I get what you're saying now.
And
yeah.
so we have to go back to evolutionary biology and be like, hey, healthcare is really important for the safety and growth of the human race.
Well, we all do this.
What's up with that?
We do this with everything. You know, you need food and water to live. You will die without water in 3 days. But if you don't have money, you don't get no water. You know? I think that is itself an inherently inhuman way of interacting with the world and other humans.
Something that I always think about is, which is really wild, is like the NHS. And how every pound you put into the NHS produces 5 pounds of tax money.
Yes.
In the form of people being healthy and well and willing to work.
Yes.
Healthcare produces a better society.
Well, the thing about being inhuman is that of all of the creatures that we know, humans are the most effective. So I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm so cool, I'm like a demon, I'm going to leave them to die because they fell behind. And it's like, you're weak. You're weak. You're not an alpha. You're a mammoth, and we're gonna swarm you. And then we're gonna eat you.
The whole article was all about, like, proving that Neanderthal health care was an incredibly important part of their culture, and how important it is for cultures to have health care and compassion and care for the disabled and care for the elderly as part of society in order for that society to succeed.
To prosper.
And modern society has said, nah, we don't need that crap.
Well, the truth is, though, yes. I mean, you're right. But is it... Because people take care of each other still. You know? Like, the truth is, you're not allowed to eat or drink water if you don't have money. But for the vast majority of people, at least in the Western world, if you stand out on the street like this, people will give you a little bit, enough to get by, with an incredible amount of disrespect and, hatred directed your way the whole time. But, like, at least you're not being outright left for dead. So even though we've been cut off from our natural desire to help each other, we still do. But I also think it comes from on high. I think that the people in charge of us, to be honest, they've sold themselves the lie that they are island, and they're hungry. They're like hungry ghosts. They need this human connection. It's a basic human need. They are humans, whether they want to be or not. And so they have to have more to try to fill this hole, which is actually only filled by the community that they've rejected. And I think that is the source of many bad things, because basically...
But it really drives me crazy when I hear things like that. Like, it's the same with... like, Medicaid and food stamps in the United States. So many states want to cut funding to that because it's not profitable, but that's not true. Every dollar that you put in, you get a 500% return on investment. What other investment gets you 500% return in anywhere?
But these are people that don't think of themselves as human, and they cut off the parts of them that make us the strongest because they think that it makes them weak.
Yeah.
And we all have to suffer for it, basically, I mean, the only thing the ruling class wants is everything. They will never be satisfied.
And I also think so much about, like, we have proof that Neanderthals who were completely disabled, unable to not walk necessarily, but maybe unable to run, unable to keep up with, like, a high energy kind of role, they were still given food. They were still given a place to live. They were still given medicine and cared for. Like, there's so much in our society now of...
Got mine.
Especially with the disabled community. Like, if you don't fit, if you can't do one of, like, 10 jobs, what are you doing here? Why are you bothering us?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to be part of society?
But we have to remember, even, like, I was taught this in school, that those who do not work shall not eat was, like, a good thing. And that is where we are now.
Yeah.
But, like, no. Our ancient Neanderthal ancestors only got to where we are now because they didn't operate under that principle.
Yeah.
So we're really shooting ourselves in the foot. But it isn't really us shooting ourselves in the foot. It's the people who rule us shooting themselves in the foot with, like, a Gatling gun, and then the bullets spray everywhere and kill everyone.
That's absolutely true. And another thing that's crazy about this, too, is that there's a lot of people who are like, oh, well, it should be their family's responsibility to take care of them. But that's not true of Neanderthals. Neanderthals, yes, most of these tribes were very closely related to one another, but not only. People didn't only travel with a family tribe. They had tribes of mixed lineage. We know because they buried them together, right?
Yeah.
So... it was society's responsibility to take care of these people. And it should be.
Of course. And it makes us stronger. I mean, the truth is, there was a time in my life when I desperately wished that I was a sociopath. Because it is like...
Because it's easier?
It is way easier, right? To just be like, I don't care about other people. I don't want anything from them. I don't need anything from them. And then, because I was so isolated already, I was like, that's a solution to my pain.
But you know what else is really easy? Giving them food and medicine and a house. Just give it to them. We have it. We have extra. There's plenty of it. Sorry, I'm going full anarchy here, but
Well,
it's not hard. That's
No.
what I'm getting at here. These people were surviving day to day. These people did not have unlimited food and water like we do now, but they still went out and gathered extra for the people who couldn't, right?
Yes.
So it's been possible for 100,000 years, and we have now gotten to the point as a society where we have an overabundance available. It is not straining our resources to get extra. We have the extra. The extra is being thrown in the garbage.
I mean, I know food is cheap.
Sorry, I'm getting so angry.
Food-
I'm gonna calm. I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna relax.
Food is stunningly cheap, right? And it's because we make a stupid amount of it. I know America alone, I think, produces as much food as the world needs 5 times over. So it is like, and the other problem is the process of making way more food than we need also destroys the planet. So we're destroying the planet in order to make more food that we don't use, and we still don't even feed everyone.
Yeah.
I do think it's fundamentally, insane, really.
We've
driven ourselves insane.
But the point I'm trying to make is that to bring it back to Neanderthals.
Sure.
Like I said, these people did not have unlimited resources.
And these
people had
managed.
extremely limited resources.
Yeah.
They had, you have a woman who is gathering for people who are working as hunters, right? But she's also gathering for the people who can't. She's doing extra labor.
I mean, we had that. You said there was that guy that, like his whole left side was disabled, basically, right?
Yeah.
And they were still taking care of him.
Yeah.
Yes. Which, I mean, of course, why shouldn't you?
Yeah.
Of course we should. And it's not like he's useless. Even if you're not working, you're not useless. I think I spent a lot of time, and I still can't get over this. Because as we've been opening the business.
I have a problem with this too,
As we've been opening the business, there's been a lot of like sitting around and hurry up and wait, basically. Yeah. And it makes me very upset because I feel like I'm doing nothing with my life, and I have to be doing something to justify the fact that I'm alive.
Yeah. Some days.
No, you don't have to justify the fact that you're alive. If you are loved and you love, then you are worthy of life. And even if you're not, the way to fix that, is to form connections with other people. Whoever you are, you can be loved. You are lovable.
I think...
And you can change also, right? There were parts of me that were really bad for a long time because I was hurt and alone. And I had to change a lot. But now I'm happy. Relatively. I mean, I still have my good days and my bad days.
Yeah.
But it's like that, my connection with my wife, especially. And I had some friends that helped me through it. And I was able to change a little, not completely. I don't have to be a perfect fit for anyone. I think I'm still myself. In fact, I'm more myself. But now I have people who love me, and I love them. And that is what helped me the most.
Yeah, I think if a society that was constantly on the verge of starvation and struggling to keep each other alive were still able to justify the existence of a chronically disabled person and considered them worthy of survival, then everyone is.
Well, I think humanity...
There is no human not valuable.
Yeah.
Every human has value. No human needs to justify their existence. We have to get off the topic because we're rambling far too much.
Can I just say one thing? I think humanity right now, we're all based on fear, honestly. We really are. Fear and, to some extent, hatred. Those are the people who are the worst, unfortunately. But fear, basically. We go to work because we don't want to be homeless. We want to make sure we have food and water and shelter. Every day, right? We do that. Even if we're not enjoying it at all, it's not what we want to do with our life. We do all these things just because We're afraid, basically. We're afraid of, like, everything. We're afraid of each other. And some people have turned that into hate, right? It's like, the reason that I'm afraid is because of you, and I hate you because of that.
This is completely off topic, baby girl.
But what the Neanderthals knew that got them from where they were to we are now is that the strongest thing is love. We need love.
See, that's a good sentence. Yeah, so moving on from the Paleolithic, we're going to move a little bit further forward to the Mesolithic and the Neolithic age. So this 10 to 15,000 years ago, I would say. So there are three medical procedures that we have evidence of, basically. And the evidence is not just in archaeological evidence, but we also have petroglyphs or cave drawings.
Okay.
So geophagy, I think is how this is pronounced.
Okay.
Geophagy? Geophagy? I'm going to say it in a bunch of different ways.
I would say that's the word of the day, but we don't know how to pronounce it.
So it is the practice of eating soil or earthy items like chalk and clay for medicinal uses.
Okay.
You've talked about this in the past as well.
Yeah.
In your approximate knowledge. Yes. Seashells would be considered this as well, which have been used historically because of the calcium and the clay in them. So eating soil and clay were probably the earliest medicinal experiences that a lot of prehistoric people would have had. Clay and soil are eaten by a lot of animals in order to help process. You have a lot of herbivores especially who will eat soil and clay because it helps with all of the fiber that they eat. It helps to process it. So similarly, certain clays may have been used externally as well as ochre to heal wounds. Clay is still used topically in skincare. Obviously, we've seen a lot of clay in skincare. It's really good at drawing out impurities in the skin. We see a lot of clay masks and things like that. And also, they can be used to treat cuts and wounds. Australian Aboriginals actually encapsulated broken bones in clay mud. And so that was a practice that we saw in modern hunter-gatherer groups that we can see in the past as well.
So it's like a clay cast, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. But this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like, all we find necessarily is some clay around them, around the ancient peoples.
Yeah, but we have evidence that they took time to prepare this clay and mud, and we also have evidence of the healed bones. Like I said, you had 40% of people had healed bones.
But imagine how much you can do with just clay if that's all you got, basically.
Yeah. The second one is trepanning, or trepanation. Prehistoric, so the trepanning is cutting a hole in your head, basically.
Yeah.
You remove a round portion of the skull bone. But it's kind of crazy, not in the idea of it, but it's kind of crazy how good they were at it. We're talking about people who were 10,000 years ago, and a study of 4,000 skeletons, 80% of subjects survived and healed from trepanation.
Did it do anything for them?
Yes and no. So actually, we don't call it this anymore, but drilling a hole in your head is still used to treat encephaly, which is a swelling of the brain. Basically, you have to crack your skull open because your brain is swelling so much, it is going to die.
And that probably happened a lot when people were getting thrown off of a mammoth, getting a massive concussion.
There is some evidence that it was used to treat damage to skulls, which actually would have been medicinally useful. Like I said, we do it today in hospitals.
Yeah.
Also, they probably, based on what we saw of cave drawings, petroglyphs, we think that they may have utilized it to try and cure things like epilepsy, psychological disorders, and really extreme migraines.
I mean, migraines, I could see it working on.
Yeah.
Potentially. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
I don't know. But we do know that they were using herbal medicine to treat the pain. So we have evidence of opium poppy at Neolithic sites. And again, we've talked about this in the past when it comes to opium, an opium poppy. Like, it requires a really educated use. You have to give someone the right dose, or they will die.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
very strong medicine.
Yeah. I will also say that opium poppy and milk thistle are both some of the earliest medicinal plants we have evidence of being cultivated and deliberately transplanted from other places.
Well, I have to wonder, because there's like a difference between farming and cultivation, right? I know a lot of American Indian, or I shouldn't have said that, American native groups. They were like cultivating the whole area, the range that they traveled through.
Yeah.
But the way that they would do it would be like, we know we need poppy for medicine. That's something we use commonly. So we're just going to throw a bunch of poppy seeds and plant poppies in a bunch of different places that we know we're going to visit, right?
Yes.
And then we're going to move between these like 12 different places over the course of the year and the seasons and depending on what we need. But there's always poppies at those places because we put them there.
Yeah, but there's also evidence that Neolithic people who were still, because the Neolithic time is when we started to build agriculture. Mm-hmm. So Paleolithic, definitely still nomadic, hunter-gatherer tribes. Mesolithic was kind of a blend. We were starting very early agrarian societies, very similar to the way the American natives would have been doing it, the American indigenous people. They did some farming, we have proof that they planted maize and pumpkins and things like that and farmed them in a very traditional way. But also, like you said, they sort of spread and cultivated very important plants and did controlled burns of the prairies and things like that to help encourage growth. So the Mesolithic would have been very similar to that. And then the Neolithic is when we start to see much more advanced cultivation and agriculture, where they're actually breeding the opium poppy from what it was to what it is today with the very large seed pods so that you can get to the medicine in it much easier.
But basically, it's like we were guiding and being guided by the land.
Correct.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the American natives I don't think they had poppies. But,
there's the California poppy, but there are other medicinal plants
but I'm sure
they would have done.
But other things. But basically, like, all throughout the land were the plants that they needed. And the plants that were really important, they made sure those were everywhere, basically, right?
Definitely.
But they didn't actually control them. They didn't grow them. They were just like, we're going to be in this area, so I'm going to throw a bunch of this stuff that I need into this area. And it's a very, like, symbiotic relationship almost between humanity and the land itself. And that, like, we're helping these plants to spread and grow.
Yeah.
And also they're helping us to survive.
So I mentioned this earlier, but the rondelles, or the portion of the skull that would have been removed, was actually kept, and there were perforations and evidence of cording, meaning that they were hung as amulets or maybe even worn as necklaces. So this is sort of a ritualistic angle of it. Another important thing to factor in is that women were not just herbal healers and gatherers, but they were probably the first surgeons. Women were mainly responsible for butchering and preparing the hides of the large prey animals. They made bone and stone tools to cut flesh. The preparing of hides for use also involves chemical applications, such as herbs, special washes, and I think you probably may know this, but I'm not sure if everyone does, but urine was one of the first things used to prepare a hide because the uric acid kind of made it soft and pliable over time. Mm-hmm. So women would have become experts in this chemistry and preparation and butchery and surgery. So they would have been linked because they already knew how to use the tools, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's I do know, like, you can tan hides sometimes with brain tanning. There's urine tanning. But again, it's like these are the materials they had access to. Mm-hmm. So they figured it out, right?
Yeah.
And what a jump. You know, you have a brand new animal pelt. You know it's going to start rotting. Someone somehow figured out you got to pee on it.
Yes, so Neolithic sites we found contained many of the following. So opium poppy. Really important. Where's the Rhineland again? Is that in Germany?
Yes.
Okay, so a number
Western
of sites in the Rhineland, which are called linear band ceramic. I think that's how you pronounce it. Again, I apologize greatly to the German people. Basically, we've seen samples of opium poppy seeds, specifically Papaver somniferum, which is the cultivated version of the wild poppy, which is Papaver setigerum, which is native to the Western Mediterranean. So these wild poppy were turned into the opium poppy and brought into Germany from the Mediterranean. So this is proof that humans were like, that's a good plant. We're going to bring it with us.
Yeah.
So another three that we have evidence of are henbane, which has scopolamine in it, which is a sedative and analgesic. Ephedra plant, which contains ephedrine, which is an incredibly powerful stimulant. And then thorn apple, which contains scopolamine and atropine, which are both sedatives. So these three are incredibly toxic plants unless you are taking small, carefully medicated doses of them. And we have proof that Neolithic people were brought these plants from their original habitat to completely different places with completely different weather, temperature, and things like that, and cultivated them in order to continue to grow them.
And this is what you mean by, like, agriculture starting to be
Correct.
a thing. But even then, so it's like when agriculture was starting to be a thing, there was a lovely little interplay between the people who lived not in the towns or whatever, the cities, and the people who lived in the cities who had the time to, God, what's the word for, like, altering a plant over time?
Well, they were, like, breeding it, right?
Yeah. I mean, basically, it's
selective
breeding, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like genetic modification, really, Yes. So people that would stay in the city had the time to watch over generations of the plant to make sure that it became, the kind of plant that they wanted. And then the people who were hunting and gathering, which I know actually in the early days of agriculture, they were better fed.
Yeah.
Would come in, I'm sure, with meats and things and take some of these useful plants and spread those where they wanted them, basically.
Yeah. In Siberia, near the Arctic Sea, petroglyphs at Pegtimel in Chukotka or Chukotka, dated back to the very, very early Bronze Age Neolithic era, clearly depict mushrooms associated with humans. Very few mushrooms survive at this northerly latitude. Fly agaric is one of these.
Huh.
So it's incredibly likely that this was a petroglyph depicting the use of fly agaric mushrooms, which are not only
They're
medicinal in nature, but they're also probably were used in rituals because it has
psychedelics.
No, psychotropic
Sure.
effects. We also found petroglyphs in Sweden of mushrooms, as well as mushroom motifs, which were etched into bronze razors.
And fly agaric, I know, is also pretty deadly.
If you don't take the exact right amount and prepare it in the exact right way, it will kill you. So it's pretty advanced knowledge.
Yeah. But if you do take it in the right way, in the right amount and everything, then it will give you a spirit quest.
Yeah. So
or berserk.
Yeah.
Have you go berserk. I mean, even the Vikings were using it, I think, right, as one of the theories.
Yes. Yeah. For the berserkers. Yeah. So another really interesting thing that we have very limited archaeological evidence of, but we're starting to develop archaeological evidence of, is medical botanics containing essential oils or terpenes. So these are things like pinene, camphor, eugenol, menthol, myrrh. So cedar oil was used by the ancient Celts to preserve human heads, and Egyptians also used it in mummifications. Terpenes are analgesic, highly aromatic, and moderately narcotic. We have evidence of burnt residue in ceramics containing pine, cedar, and juniper. So I thought that was a fun little fact because it kind of links into fir, which is our episode,
Oh, yeah.
because fir is a type of pine tree. And it has that lovely aromatic effect.
The odor,
But
yeah.
also is showing that it's possible that ancient peoples were doing aromatherapy, basically.
Sure, I mean, why wouldn't they? It's the
Yeah.
same thing I was saying, right? In, like, every post-apocalyptic movie, it's, like, dirty and it looks like shit.
Yeah.
Personally, if I was in the post-apocalypse, after I was settled enough for, like, a year, I'd be cleaning it up and painting
And making it
and
look
decorating
nice and
it.
smell nice.
Yeah, otherwise, life sucks, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they were using aromatics and things like that, for sure.
Here is a conversational question for us.
Okay.
Do you think that we have lost any of this really valuable intuitive or observational medicine that these ancient peoples had access to? Like, are there natural remedies or traditional practices that you trust more than modern pharmaceutical ones?
The truth is, I think a lot of modern pharmaceutical medicines have sprung out of this, but in intentionally often forgetting their roots, they have lost a lot of the value of it. I think that medicine now is very impersonal. I think that's the biggest flaw. We talk about bedside manner, right? But the truth is, patients and doctors and nurses kind of all hate each other. Like, a lot of people don't want to go to see the doctor because it's so stressful. And I know doctors are stressed out, and nurses, beyond belief, basically. And we're really all stretched to the breaking point on what is, again, a fundamental part of human nature, past where some people would even call us human, 100,000 years back into the past. So on that front, I do think there's a lot to learn from the way that we used to do it. Basically, it should be like one-on-one. I mean, even back in like the 1900s, doctors used to do house calls because they had the time for that, because there were like a billion more doctors. I mean, not literally that, but many more doctors, because it was easier to become a doctor to begin with, right? I know, like, really a lot of it is all like legislation and regulation, truthfully, which I don't want to demean too much, because obviously those are super important.
And I do think that becoming a doctor is a very complex process, in that the human body is enormously complex, and having to learn the ins and outs of it is difficult.
Sure.
And I do think that it is important to say, if you are going to practice medicine, something which can kill people, you should have a certain amount of training or testing or whatever.
But I think we've always had that. I think we had that 100,000 years ago. Like I said, they were very strict if you messed up the oral history or anything, because they had to be, to keep it the same for 100,000 years. Yeah. So, like, I think we've lost a lot of, like, the human connection, and like, because, like, I know there was a protest, this was many years ago now, probably like 5 years, and I'm just old, but in South Korea, what I would say not that long ago, there was a protest by doctors to stop, because the government wanted there to be more doctors, basically. They were allowing there to be more doctors. There's like a number of licenses they give out every year. I don't fully understand it.
They do that in the UK as well.
It's the same in the UK. I'm pretty sure it's the same in the US.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous, right? But it isn't the doctor's fault. The reason, well, maybe it is a little. But let's say that the biggest reason that the doctors were going on strike is because if you flood the market in our glorious market system with doctors, then, they have less freedom. They have less money that they can do anything with, right? Including eat and sleep in a house. So we've incentivized people to be, like, against each other and cruel.
And create a horrible supply-demand thing, because we want it to be a valuable job, which means we have to make it limited.
Because it is incredibly valuable. But, like, why does it have to be that... There's so many people that want to be healers or teachers or whatever. And a lot of people that want to be teachers, they just don't do it because makes them no money, basically.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that want to be healers are forbidden from becoming so by the government because a certain number of people are only allowed every year. So, like, the ability, I do think it's really important, you know. I don't want a doctor to just be like, I've decided I'm a doctor today. And it's just like some random guy with no knowledge who hasn't even read a book. But I think we should really empower people. There's a natural human drive and an urge to become a healer. And I do think medicine needs to be like one-on-one. This whole factorized, industrialized nightmare where you go to a hospital and everyone's stressed out because they're working 12-hour shifts, but they want to work 12-hour shifts because otherwise they don't get paid any money, is like, it's just self-torture. It's self-flagellation of all of humanity against all of humanity. Yeah. Sorry, totally, I got a little heated there.
No, I totally get that. It's very similar to the way that I was doing it earlier.
I think we need, like, literally 5 times as many doctors as nurses so that they have time to do house calls again. And that's how medicine should be conducted.
I also think and support the increase in the variety of healers. Like, we have practicing nurses now that can give out medication.
Yeah.
Pharmacists can now prescribe certain things.
Yeah.
I think there should be more levels of healer, basically.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to do doctor to take care of people. And obviously it should still be regulated, because I still don't want people to be like, well, I went to school for a year. I think I've got it.
I do think
obviously
it depends. But even in that, right? Like, we spoke about this in another episode. When you go to school to become a nurse or whatever, it's like a 3-year degree? Most of that degree is spent learning things that you don't want to know that have nothing to do with what you're trying to do. I think it almost needs to be fundamentally redefined from the ground up, because a year of training may well be enough that I could trust someone to at least do certain things for me, if that's all that they were doing. And if that's all that they want to do, why can't we let them do that? It should work that way. We've all made it so incredibly pointlessly complicated so that there aren't enough doctors to do house calls, because now the few people that are left working a torturous nightmare 12-hour shifts every single day are able to be like, well, at least I get a lot of money. But the money's there. The money is there. There's way more than enough money to have 5 times as many doctors being paid what they are now, and still, or more, way more, in fact, and still have, you know, way infinity money to do anything with.
Yeah.
It's just that we all give it to Elon Musk, and he has 500 billion on his giant dragon hoard that will never fill the empty hole in his heart.
Yeah. So we're going to move a little bit further forward to talk about what kind of kicked this whole thing off for me. And that is the story of Otzi the Iceman. Now, he's not nearly as old as some of the other things that I've talked about here, but he's so interesting. 5,000 years old is what we're talking about. He is technically considered Bronze Age.
Okay.
But he's just so interesting.
Well, it's Bronze Age also compared to, like, he himself didn't have any bronze tools, did he?
He did, yes.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
He did. So it has, but mainly because he has so much archaeological evidence for so many very interesting Western herbal medicine practices. So, first of all, poor Otzi was not well. This man was not doing well. Even though he actually was ultimately killed by, like, an arrow or something. He was killed by another human being. But even before that, he had Lyme disease, intestinal parasites, narrowed arteries, and the poor man was lactose intolerant.
The worst thing of all of them.
The worst thing of all. He couldn't
murder,
eat cheese.
Arson, and jaywalking.
However, when he was found, he was carrying essentially like a full medical kit. He had like a curated collection of medicine that he carried with him. He had thousands of years of plant knowledge in his pockets, basically. So he had, for example, we see that he had 2 lumps of birch bracket fungus, Piptoporus betulinus. Betulinus, like the birch tree. Betulinum, I think, was the chemical.
Okay.
So this is an antimicrobial compound. So he had intestinal parasites. The fungus showed evidence of like small pieces having been broken off, meaning that he was like slow dosing himself to deal with his intestinal parasites, meaning he like knew that he was sick and he was treating that specific illness.
Yeah, so he knew even what the illness looked like.
Yeah.
And this is a man, and you're saying that women were often traditionally healers.
Yeah, but also we don't know. A woman may have packed this for him.
Sure, a woman
right?
he may have gone to a woman and she said, "You got intestinal parasites. Here's your fungus.
Yeah.
Take a little bit every day."
Yeah.
That's true, but he may also have just known himself, right?
It may have been, yeah, it may have been a societal like knowledge, like, hey, if your tummy hurts and you see this in your poo, you should take some of this mushroom.
I mean, I know this is disgusting, but often if you have intestinal parasites, you see them when you do your business.
Yeah, exactly. So also really, really fascinating. He had Lyme disease and also degenerated arthrosis in his hips, knees, ankles, and lumbar spine. He was kind of on the older side too, I believe. When he died, he was like in his 30s, 40s, which was old back then. I know it was old back then. I mean, 40 for a Neanderthal was fucking ancient language. Sorry. He had a bunch of tattoos. We know because his body was mummified. There were tattoos that were like lines and dots that were created by the deliberate subcutaneous deposition of charcoal. So basically he was stabbed with charcoal to create these. They were not random, and not all of them are visible, like outside of his clothes. Like unless he was naked, you wouldn't even like see most of them, which means that they were unlikely to just be decorative or ornamental. So the possibility existed that they had therapeutic importance. They did a study on these marks. Superimposition of the tattoo marks onto a topographical representation of traditional Chinese acupuncture points indicated that 9 of the tattoos corresponded to acupuncture points.
That's very interesting. You also wonder, because he was found on his own, basically, right?
So what we've been able to piece together is that he was possibly a shepherd or some other kind of like lone worker, basically, who traveled. He basically had like a little travel pack. It wasn't for a long journey. So he was probably someone who went out to care for something, for a few days at a time.
But so think about it this way. Like, he's going to be away from people for a long time. But he has all these illnesses that need treatment. So they give him a little travel pack. They're like, here's your little bento box. Here's your lunch. Here's your meds.
Yeah, he had food in his stomach.
But I would also say, I wonder if having the tattoos around those spots, they're basically like, yeah, you see the eye of the fox or whatever I got in your arm? That's where you want to put the needle.
Well, they were just lines and dots, basically.
Oh, really?
So that's what they were saying. So the marks may have been a guide for self-treatment. However, there were a lot on his back that aligned with his spine. So they may have been a medical report for others.
Yeah.
So he may have traveled for whatever task or job that he did. So he may have seen different types of healers, right?
Yeah.
And he could say, the marks on my back are where my spine hurts.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the other thing is too, right? Like, what if the really knowledgeable 40-year-old ancient healer is busy or whatever, but you just need, anyone can do that, right?
Yeah.
They just gotta poke it into your back. Literally anyone. You could get your buddy to do it. You could have a beer.
Yeah, exactly. So the other thing is that Otzi is not the only one who was found with these kinds of marks. They were also found on a body in Siberia. So they may have actually come from China. This knowledge of acupuncture may be linked, like from China to Siberia to Otzi was found in like Germany, I think. Pretty sure. So a continuity of acupuncture knowledge spread across a wide area. And we're definitely going to do an episode on acupuncture because I do find it extremely fascinating. But I just think this is just so fascinating to me. Like, a man in Germany 5,000 years ago was possibly using
Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the world has always been way more connected than we give it credit. Just because, like, how fast does a rumor travel, right? But the reason that a rumor travels fast is that you travel to a town, you tell someone, you tell the whole town, and someone in that town travels to all these other towns.
Yeah.
So, like, I know the way the Mongolians were able to move across, like, the whole of Siberia in, like, a couple of days. And I think, like chickens, I'm pretty sure, originate in China. So, like, we wouldn't think of that as Chinese. That's just a human thing that there is,
Chickens
right?
everywhere.
But it is Chinese. But basically, like, that interconnection, I think, was rapid. And we're talking about time periods of 50,000 years. So, for that information to get from, China to Germany, I don't think it took maybe a year, if even that. And
Yeah.
I do think, like, that's really incredible, basically. And
Yeah.
that's how humanity, like, we've always been very strongly linked.
I mean, I think that is a great example, again, of humanity and this, like, sharing of knowledge. Like, this is knowledge not to make you more money, not to make you more powerful. This is knowledge that helps other human beings who are in pain. Like, this is knowledge that's spread because people care about other people. Like, that's
I think also it does make
delightfully human.
it makes you pretty cool, right? I think that's a big part of it.
Sure.
If you discover something incredible and then you spread it, like, yeah, people are like, that guy or girl or whatever, like, she's the freaking best. She's the one who brought me this thing that eases my pain.
Sure, but I don't think that it's going to necessarily make you, like, powerful in the
No.
way that you have power over other people.
Yeah, I don't think you
I
could
think-
then walk over to them and say, I did this so you will kneel and kiss my foot or whatever.
Yeah.
They'd be like, piss off.
Yeah. But I do think that there's some, I don't know.
But it's like that. This is how you gain celebrity. When we had real problems, truthfully, when we were fighting against nature just to survive,
Yeah.
how do you become a celebrity? You make the fight against survival itself a little bit easier for everybody.
Well, in our Ancient Egypt episode, what did we talk about? Imhotep, a
Yeah.
doctor who did such a good job. They turned him into a god
Yeah,
in their pantheon.
yeah, because, I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Imagine if your life noticeably becomes easier and you can point to a single person or even a small group of people and be like, they did that. My life is now noticeably better and easier because of those people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be like, yeah, you want to be a god, bro? Sure. Hell yeah.
What strikes me about Otzi, first, to be specific about and go back to it, is how, like, deliberate he was. He wasn't just carrying, like, random plants or flowers, right? He had a curated, like, kit for specific ailments that he knew that he had. And he had food that he brought with him, and he had tools that he brought with him. And it's just a really interesting thing that we think about. Like, I think about myself on a day-to-day basis, and you too. Like, we have Tylenol in our purse.
Yeah.
We have paracetamol in our purse.
Yeah.
We carry around, like, medicine and the tools for our day-to-day life. That connects us to this man hiking in the Alps or wherever the hell he was
And I hope
5,000 years ago.
I don't get murdered and frozen in an ice cube.
I mean, that is also really sad. There's like a meme online where people are like, what happened to Otzi? Who hurt him? And I'm like, that is a little sad.
But they're just like us, right?
Yeah, but exactly. They are
And
just like us.
I will say, right, like, it is important. I've been talking about all the beneficial, like, the way that we work together. I do think it's a very human thing that we've been killing each other since God knows how long, right? That is also a big part of us. Unfortunately, in some cases, I don't think it really gets us very far, but it is a part of us.
Yes. So, we are finally getting to the fir. As I mentioned, we talked about pine and cedar as part of our thing. Fir is a different conifer. They are in the same... Conifer. Very funny. Fir trees are part of the same evergreen family as pine. It's called the Pinacea. However, fir needles are flat, soft, and attached directly to the twig. Pine needles are round and bundled in clusters that are attached to the branch. In addition, fir cones stand upright on the branch like candles, and then they fall apart, whereas pine cones face downwards and they fall to the ground fully intact. I went to Preston Park. I found
Do you need help?
fir.
No.
For us to look at.
For us? I love you. You're so
You want the big
cute.
one or the little one?
Whatever you want to give me.
So these are firs. As you can see, the needles are flat.
Oh, the smell is just wonderful. So,
Yes. Fir trees are the tallest of all of the evergreen trees, and they can grow up to 200 feet tall. I'm sure you've heard of the impressive Douglas fir. That's the big, it's a
Unfortunately,
big mother effer.
I know very little about firs, and our listeners might not know, but we just we had to choose between figs and firs. And the truth is, I like figs, but I also think they're very environmentally destructive in the way that they're being grown currently. So I thought we'd do the fir, but I just truthfully I know like literally nothing about it.
Well,
it smells nice. I know a little.
Listen and follow along with me, friend.
Yeah.
So, the word fir comes from the Old English word fergan, meaning mountain forest, and is also based on ancient words like fir and fir, meaning fire and light. Fir trees and other evergreens were ancient symbols of eternal light associated with the winter solstice and the return of the sun. They were celebrated during Saturnalia and during Yuletide, or Yule. In Celtic traditions, fir was known as elm.
Why light? What is it, like the resin is good for starting fires?
No, it's purely it's an evergreen. So even in the depths of winter,
It's the only green thing you
is
see.
still green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know like pine needles are really good. They're high in vitamin C if you are fir the same.
Fir are the same, in
So
fact.
maybe that might be part of it, right?
It
It's
does.
the only fresh thing you get to eat in the winter.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's I'd say that's pretty nice.
So long before Christianity, Germanic and Norse people brought evergreen boughs and branches, specifically fir, into their homes and halls during the winter solstice, also known as Yuletide. They were a powerful charm against the spirits of darkness and decay, a living promise that life would return. Its scent is also believed to purify the air and clear the mind, and it's actually one of the branches that is commonly used in the sauna.
I do think it is very like it smells like cleansing. You know, it has that
Yes,
like
it
a strong,
is.
almost like a bitter, like a sour, but it's like a
The,
fresh,
yeah.
earthy. It's a lovely scent.
Yeah, the connection to the fir was so strong in these ancient people that even when Christianity came along and said, actually, your winter holiday celebration is the celebration of Christ's birth, aka Christmas, that they were like, yeah, but we're going to keep the fir trees. And that's why all Christmas trees are firs.
Interesting. I did not know that.
There you go. Fun fact. So the spirit of the fir tree encourages us to see the bigger picture and rise to the occasion during times of rapid change. It is also symbolic of strength and integrity.
I mean, it is. It's always alive, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else went through cycles of life and death and regrowth and hibernation.
Yes.
And humans were there in the dead of winter, and it was snowing, and they were like, God, I hope we saved enough food to make it through this. And then there's just one plant still out there.
And in the deepest, darkest, the longest night of the year, that's what the winter solstice is, right? So it's the deepest, darkest day of the year. They went out and they brought greenery into their homes to remind themselves, like, spring is coming. The world will be green again.
Yeah.
I think that's very powerful as well.
It's funny. I think like winter is coming is the Game of Thrones thing, but people never said that. They said the opposite. They said spring is coming, basically.
Yeah, winter is coming.
Rather than things
so
are going to get
pessimistic.
worse,
Yeah.
people were like, no, remember, things will get better again.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's very important, I think, in our modern day.
Yeah.
Let's say that. I think that's something to hammer home, right? We all say like there's such a memento mori, right? Remember that you will die, and this too shall pass. I also hear. I love this too shall pass. whether you're miserable or you're happy, everything changes and it will get better. But we have to be part of making it better too, right? You can't just lie back and wait for it to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's powerful. So, fir needle tea is a traditional remedy across Europe. It's incredibly rich in vitamin C, which is historically a vital preventative and health curative during long, cold winters. It's also a potent expectorant. So we talked a little bit. I'm not sure if it was cherry. Cherry. We talked about different kinds of cough medicine. How there's expectorants and also tussins.
Yes.
So the tussives prevent you from coughing by easing and relaxing the irritated lungs. But expectorants are when you have like a wet cough. Expectorants force you to cough more to get all the junk out.
So that's funny in the winter when people are getting sick the most, probably because of the cold and everything.
Yeah.
And they were all huddled together around a fire, spreading illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
The one plant that is still alive is part of helping you fight those illnesses.
Exactly. So the resin or sap that oozes from the bark is a renowned antiseptic and healing agent.
Wow.
It can be softened and applied directly to wounds, splinters, or boils to draw out infection and promote healing. It is basically the tree's own protective bandage. That's what sap is. The tree's been damaged, and it's producing this in order to protect the wound. And it does the same for us.
And it's a healing tree. So it's a healing tree that also, you can make it into a tea. And it helps you with sicknesses. I get why they thought it was so freaking important. I'm learning a lot, actually.
It was so important that even when the Christians were coming along and they were like, if you keep celebrating your stupid winter solstice holiday, we will kill you. They were like, okay, but can we keep our tree? They're like, okay, I guess you can keep your tree.
It is no longer winter solstice holiday. It's definitely Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
We're keeping the tree.
Mm-hmm.
We will literally just rather die if you're going to take our glorious,
Can't take our tree,
lovely
man.
tree away.
Yes.
But now we all have plastic trees. A lot of people, unfortunately.
That's true.
But the other problem is it's because everyone's got a tree in their own house. There should be a big tree, one tree, so that you don't have to destroy a billion firs.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, remember when we were walking up past in January and we saw the tree graveyard?
But we need to be part of decorating it, too. People love decorating the tree.
Yeah.
We need enough trees that everyone can decorate a tree, but every single family doesn't need a tree, right? So why can't we spread it out a little more and not kill it?
Also, I think we should just plant a tree and keep it all year round. It's a reminder, not just of Christmas, but of like the cycle of the seasons and how it will always be green again.
And then we can just decorate it. You're right. I mean, it is a little bit bizarre that the tree of life we're chopping down.
Yeah. So we are going to do a meditation today. It's been a couple of episodes, but I was quite touched by the whole like fir tree story and how strong it is, basically. So we're gonna wind down today's episode with doing a lovely little meditation, and I did get us a couple of fir branches that we are going to use in our meditation. You could also if you don't have access to a fir of your own, you can always get some dried needles and make yourself a tea. The essential oil is also accessible, or you can use cedarwood essential oil, basically anything that smells like Christmas. I think it's very grounding.
Yeah.
Basically, we want to encourage you to trigger that memory of the woods.
Should I close my eyes?
Yes, but I am going to do just a quick little outro, just to thank everybody for listening. And yeah, I hope you join us in this little meditation and
like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, that really
and
helps
comment,
us out.
Please, really comment. We do want to hear from you. I know you're all watching and listening, and I love that, and I appreciate you all being there, being good listeners, but I know we all have our stories, and if you're willing to share even just a little piece of it, we'd be glad to hear it.
Yeah. All right. Breathe deep of your
I'll
branch.
close my eyes now.
Yes. Breathe deep of your branch, or your essential oil, or your tea, whatever you're using to connect yourself to the fir and the forest. Bring your awareness to your breath and close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, let go of any thoughts you're carrying. Exhale slowly. Watch them float away. Take another breath, and with it, feel yourself fully in this moment, in your body. Now imagine yourself standing at the base of a great mountain. Before you rises a powerful fir tree, tall and unwavering. Its bark is textured with time. Its roots are anchored deep in the earth. This is a tree of ancient lineage, its name echoing old words for fire and light. Feel the solid, quiet strength of its presence. It has stood here through many seasons, a silent witness to the cycles of the sun. Bring your attention to the trunk of this tree. See how it rises, straight, true, and resolute. Let your own spine straighten and lengthen. Tilt your shoulders back and let them relax. Sit upright. Reach skyward like the fir tree towards the light. With each inhale, feel yourself growing taller, drawing energy up from your rooted foundation. With each exhale, release any weight that keeps you low. As you breathe, feel the call to rise. Pull yourself up. Reach out and grasp a branch. You can feel the rough bark in your hands. The fir fills your lungs with green, fresh air, clearing them, fueling you, and giving you its ancient strength. It is easy. You climb up and up and up. The distractions of the forest floor fade. The mundane issues that pull you down lose their grip. In this moment, let your perspective lift. What truth have you been unable to see from below? Let it come into view now. You stand on a sturdy, strong branch. You can see from here the full forest, evergreens, hundreds of feet high. They are green, a blanket of green and beauty on the side of the mountain. Even when covered in snow or surrounded by the darkness of winter, the branches of the fir remain green, true, and strong. Your ancient ancestors saw fir as a symbol of eternal light, a promise of the sun's return. This light is within you, authentic and unwavering. As you stand tall like this tree, feel what it means to be authentic within yourself. From this place, you can rise to the occasion during times of rapid change. There is something within you that was set in motion long ago. Feel the support beneath you, deep roots, ancient ground littered with needles. Feel the clarity above you, the blue sky, the sunlight, a wider view. Take one final deep breath here. Breathe in the smell of the fir. Draw the energy of it into its heart, into your heart. Know that you carry this with you. You can be green when all around you is dark and cold. You can bring this greenery into your life and into the lives of those around you. Light the darkness of winter. Do not let others smother it. Breathe deeply. Feel your lungs clear and bring clarity. When you are ready, you can bring your awareness back to your body. Gently move your fingers and toes. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes, carrying the light of the fir tree with you into your day.